the Simple Healthy Life podcast, and where our goal is to have real, insightful conversations on topics that we find interesting. And this one is interesting to me because, well, first I'll tell you what it is. We're going to discuss something called the hedonic treadmill. All right, and that's a new term for people. Hedonic comes from the Greek word for hedon, which is in relationship to pleasure. And satisfaction and desire. But where it stems from, the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is I was at the beach the other day and I was sitting in my chair looking up at these gorgeous houses. I mean, overlooking the water. Maybe it was in Chatham, so I don't know, $5+ million homes. And I started thinking, this might be where my head was at. I bet there's two people in there right now that are yelling at each other, that are having the same challenges that we go through. They just happen to be doing it in this $5 million house with this amazing view on a deck that overlooks the water. So I was like, man, isn't that interesting that I'm sitting down here and thinking to myself, I could be happy there. I could aspire to live in one of those houses. Maybe someday things go right for me, and that's where I'm. That's where my nephews and nieces come to visit Uncle Mike, right? But then at the same time, I thought, what does that do? Does it change me? Does it make me happy? Does that bring me happiness? So I started to kind of just look it up a little bit, and then talk to you, and you mentioned the word, this topic, the hedonic treadmill. So I guess I'll let you introduce what the hedonic treadmill is.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's a great segue into it. I mean, hedonic treadmill or hedonic adaptation is kind of this interesting psychological model, I suppose, that we have this baseline happiness level, and that baseline is influenced by a number of things, which we'll get into. But there is a diversion from the mean. So we get really, really happy when we buy a new house, for example, right? But that only lasts so long. We get really, really happy when we get a new relationship, or we get a new job, or something that we perceive as pleasurable and exciting happen. We divert from our mean. We go, up on the scale, and we feel really happy, but it only lasts for so long, and then we revert to the mean. We have this hedonic adaptation to the mean. The other part of that is the same thing is true for really tumultuous events, really perceived negative events. We feel really, really sad when we get broken up with, or we lose our job, or we lose our house, or something otherwise terrible happens. We get really, really sad. And then we revert to the mean, and we come back up to our baseline happiness. So the idea of they call it the hedonic treadmill because we always end up in the same place. We're never more or less happy or more or less sad than we are at our baseline. It doesn't last that long. And what's super interesting about it is that we've all experienced that. We've all been in the new house or the new apartment or having the new job and been really pumped about it for a couple weeks, couple months, maybe hours, whatever it is. And then we revert back to the mean. And you look back and you're like, wow, it's crazy how I thought, 2 years ago, I would be so happy if I had all the things that I have now. Yet here I am back at the mean. So that is hedonic adaptation.
Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about it because it's clearly relative to everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, I gave you one example, but everybody has countless examples of times they've grown and felt great, and times that they've really been down in the dumps and come back. And we get really good at looking at this thing one way, right? But how amazing is it that we can adapt to bring ourselves back into this baseline? Right. So essentially what we want to try to do, if we're being honest with ourselves, is raise our baseline, like our baseline happiness, Like, how do you walk through the day? Do you walk through the day as a happy person, or do you walk through the day as Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, right? There's somewhere in the middle, right? We know people that do both.
True.
So the question is why? Why do we adapt, right? And why can't we just hold on to this feeling of joy? And I think that if we had the ability to hold on to this feeling of joy, I think that we would essentially have to also be forced to hold on to this feeling of dread and sadness. And at least for me, I can speak for myself only. I'm glad that we have both. I'm glad that we don't have to live down in the dumps when something bad happens to us, because we live in a world that is full of suffering. You look around, but we also live in a world that offers us the opportunity to feel this joy at the smallest thing. I mean, the other day, someone wrote me a nice note on my coffee cup, and I didn't even see it. And I was drinking my coffee, and I spun it around, and it was like just a smile face that said, like, have a hot day or something like that. It was like, because it was a hot coffee on a hot day, or I hope you're having a heated day or something good. I was like, I just smiled, and it brought me joy. That was just, there's so many opportunities to feel that joy.
Right.
And I know it's a silly one, but I think that if we're honest with ourselves, we like this hedonic treadmill.
Keeps it interesting. Right?
Yeah.
It would be, that's why we've poked fun of it at it before, but the goal of like, well, I just want to be happy. Okay, well, that's just not going to happen, right? Like, you ask someone what they want to do or how they want, what are your goals? I just want to be happy. Okay, well, not a great goal. You're never always going to just be happy, because that's not how it works. You can maybe influence, kind of like to your own point, like baseline happiness. We can talk about a little bit about that, but that's not life. Life is not just happiness and that's it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, that it just said "you're hot" on it. Oh my God.
You're hot.
Oh, that was really nice. I was like, oh, cool. Thank you.
Like looking at who's the barista.
I still have the coffee cup. No, I'm just kidding. It just made me feel good. I think I heard God laughing in there.
Yeah. So okay, and then we talked about this like baseline happiness. So there's always reversion to the mean. This baseline level of happiness can change. So that's kind of cool. You can kind of affect that. And you even alluded to it. Some people seem to be at different levels. I've seen that. I've worked with people who seem to be, they have their hedonic adaptation. They have their kind of deviances from their baseline, but their baseline seems so much higher than other people. And I've worked with people who are just, their baseline is so low. And yeah, it's hard to see. And I think the beautiful part of it, though, is that it can all be influenced. And there's some surprising influences there. They've done research and have figured out that about 40 to 50% of your baseline happiness is determined by genes. So
By genetics.
By genetics, yes.
So you're born into a happy or not happy state?
I guess 40 to 50% of that is completely dependent on your genes. Yeah.
Oh man, I hate hearing that.
I know.
I feel like that gives people an out. Like, nope, born this way. We hate that.
Yeah.
Check my N27 gene. It's just not as big as yours. I'd be so pissed.
I got a mutation on that one.
A genetic mutation. Nope.
Yeah.
Damn.
I know. I was hoping that it wouldn't be as high as that, but it does make sense. You kind of look around and you can kind of, as much work as certainly can be done, and that certainly impacts things. And again, we'll talk about that. There does seem to be just this kind of like baseline level for people. When you get to know people, you kind of start to see that too. You know someone very deeply, and you can see all the work they're doing or not doing or whatever, and you still see the kind of reversion. You're like, okay, yeah, I see.
There's got to be some hereditary stuff in there too, like being taught, right? You look and you see like the people, the family lineage, there's got to be something there too. So I guess I understand the
Sure.
genetic piece.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's only 40 to 50% then.
Yep. Our circumstances only affect 10% of our baseline happiness level.
So what happens to you? Or
Yep, the context of your life, essentially. So, job, family, how you go about your day. There's like the sea that you're driving the boat in, essentially, right? All of that is just simply 10%. There are some extenuating circumstances, I think, in some of the things that we were wondering. Like extreme poverty, for example, is one of them. So there are some kind of like very extenuating circumstances, but for the most part, it seems that the circumstances and context as a whole are only 10%.
so that line, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it, is actually bullshit. I mean, bull poop. It's actually 40% genetic and 10% what happens to you and 60 and 50% how you respond to it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Damn.
It seems to be 40-50% genetics, 10% circumstance, and then of course like 40% or so of mindset, perspective.
Okay.
Finding purpose. So when you look at it that way, it's actually not that bad, right? Because that's a huge percentage of your overall baseline happiness is your own. It's controllable.
Okay, I like this. Now
Yeah.
go on. So 40 to 50% of what we're talking about is controllable.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Yeah, I think through all the things that we talk about, right? Presence, being authentic, cultivating purpose and meaning, mindset and gratitude work,
Connection,
right?
Finding connection with others.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy how powerful that is?
It's the most important thing.
And we talked about the blue zones. Did we do an episode on blue zones?
Mm-hmm.
They talk where there's like 7 places in the world where people live to be over 100. More people live to be over 100.
Yeah.
And connection and purpose were like 2 of the 7 things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all of that is a choice. And for it is hard, right? Like connection isn't an easy thing for some people. But there's always work. There's always things that can be done there. If you're not, I always use the example for younger folks that it's sometimes really hard to connect when you're younger. And we've all experienced this being in school, and they just kind of lump you in with people who are your same age and basic region, and they're like, all right, be friends. Yeah, it doesn't really work that way. And if you're a little different, you're a little more mature, or you're a little more immature, or you have maybe kind of niche interests or hobbies or passions, then you're probably actually not going to connect well with people in your grades. And the unfortunate part is, and we talk about this so much, is that then we cultivate beliefs around that. I'm not the kind of person who has a lot of friends. I don't connect well with other people. I hate other people, right? And then we carry then we carry that. When in fact, it was just kind of like luck of the draw. You got thrown in with a random group of people. They might all have similar interests. They might all be more immature or whatever it is. And then you're cultivating and holding a belief from that age all the way through the rest of your life, when it was gambling.
Yeah, not only was it gambling, but it was the 3rd grade, and you can't even talk to anybody about it. For real. You don't even know to say, hey, I feel funny when I go to school. I don't like this.
Yeah.
Your parents go, why? I don't know. I go, okay, we'll go back to school. Right?
Yeah.
All right, well, tomorrow's Tuesday, so I got to drop you off. Same concept. It's like, that's why I'm questioning, even as we talk, I'm questioning this genetic versus hereditary versus early on belief system. Like, I wonder if you really were able to, it would suck for the study to be done, right? You'd take one kid and tell him that life sucks his whole life, when you're young. And then you take another kid, and every day it's like, life is great. You're going to be the best, optimistic no matter what. Yeah. And then see, if it's genetic or if it's really like this. I mean, I guess some people are predisposed to being more optimistic and predisposed to being more resilient, right? But do you learn that, or is it really like in your genes? Like, I don't know. We're going with 40 to 50%, but I'm hung up on it, even though I know that there's 40 to 50% that we can control.
Right.
So, and then perspective, right? Your baseline happiness can be absolutely controlled by perspective.
Sure.
Right. I mean, I think one of the things that we're challenged by as a society now is like, how do we gain perspective? How do the most of us gain perspective? Well, it used to be that we would talk to the people in our community, right? That was kind of the majority of it. Like let's go way back to the 1990s. Okay, so you'd pick up the newspaper, you'd get a magazine, you'd talk to your friends at school. Maybe you traveled a little bit with your family. But that was really the majority of it, right? Your perspective came from that. Or you had now, how do we gain perspective? Social media, the majority of kids these days, the majority of people are like looking at stuff they know to be fake, that they know to be doctored, that they know to be altered. And it's showing them what happiness looks like.
Yeah, no, it's such a big problem. I think about it all the time. We'll have to do a different kind of like podcast on that, like the problem of information overload, and you getting this kind of passive context continuously. So many of us just get kind of like trapped in, and yeah, me included, in the social media like algorithms, and you're tuning your own perspectives and you're changing how you think about the world. And on one side of that coin is that you can absolutely choose, and maybe that's the problem with too much information. You can absolutely, and you do choose, either passively or actively, what information you accept, right? I experience this all the time in like nutrition stuff. People come to me all the time saying, I don't even know what's right, because I watch one video and says like oatmeal and carbs and meats are all bad, and the next one is like says veggies are the most awful thing, and it's legitimately true that those videos can be back to back. You can watch one thing and then get the other thing right next to each other. And so what do? How do you determine? Well, now you just, I don't know, what do you go by? A number of likes, or which person is more attractive who says that, or who has more charisma, or whatever, right? And so you really can choose. And I think it becomes very, very challenging in that environment to find actual answers to any of the problems that you're faced with. And so what do you do in that environment?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think for me, and I'm very spoiled by this. I'm going to give an answer that a lot of people probably are going to be like, "What? I don't know how I would do that." But for me, it's travel. That's helped my perspective more than anything else. Like going to a place and seeing the way different parts of the world are, like. And really, like, I remember I was in St. Martin. I was on this little back road, and there was people sitting outside of this house that was like, it had the blue tarp as a roof, right? And it was cinder block. And I was like, man, how long did the hurricane come through here? How long ago did the hurricane come through here? So I was talking to Cora, and she's like, I don't know, I think it was like 3 years ago. And they were just sitting in their front lawn smiling away, happy. And I was so taken aback by that, because like, I'm like thinking, man, like you left that, you got to all the things that you think about living around here, but that's not real for them. They don't live in Massachusetts. It's not going to snow. They can choose to be happy and live right there on their lawn, just as happy as you could be. And there's countless examples of that when I get to travel and see the way the rest of the world works, and with my own eyes, not just look it up on YouTube and say, I wonder what it looks like over in this part of the world, right? Like actually go and see it. I think that was a big one for me.
Yeah, and you know that doesn't come that type of learning didn't come from you seeing that on a video either. It came from you going to doing an action, going traveling, and then yourself coming to that conclusion, right? It was an action, and you know there's probably like hundreds of quotes that are like this, but it kind of goes along the lines of this is you learn much more by trying and failing than you do watching other people try and fail. And obviously, right, I think we kind of understand that. And I think that goes a long way with a lot of the work that we talk about here is that you can't actually listen to us and then really learn anything. You know, all you can hope to be is potentially inspired or potentially understand the next step or a focus area, right? And then you have to try it. You have to do the things. You got to do the meditations and the reading and the journaling and the emotional stuff and this and that. You have to actually do it. And that's where people are hung up on, right?
Oh, I'm 100%. This is resonating with me. This is something we haven't talked about, but it's since I've seen you last, and that's been a little while now.
Mm-hmm.
This one particular line is in my brain, and it's resonated and stuck. And I feel like I wake up in the morning now. Clarity only comes after action.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of allude to that. You say it differently, but you've said it so many different times, right? Just take the step, do the action, do the thing, go figure it out, find it. And if you fail, you fail, if you, whatever. But that just resonated with me in such a powerful way. Like, you have to do the action. If you want to go be happy, you got to do these list of things that we're talking about doing, right? You got to try to meditate. You got to try to live in the moment. You got to journal. You got to take the steps to raise your baseline happiness. Forget the genetic thing. You got to do that stuff. And then you'll find clarity. That did work. That didn't work. That wasn't good for me. I didn't like that. I liked that a lot. That helped. So that was not good. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for all of this stuff is like, clarity only comes after action.
Right.
So if you're sitting there, you know, like I can remember every single day thinking about opening our labs over and over and over and over and over again. And you know what? The challenges I have with our labs, I didn't think about at all.
Mm-hmm.
None. I mean, oh, the equipment broke. Yeah, I never thought about that. We have a warranty. Oh, yeah. Well, what happens when it's down, right?
Mm-hmm.
That stuff. No idea. But we took the action, and now I'm gaining clarity on what to do. Mm-hmm. And for everybody out there, and you're feeling a certain way, or you're on the backside of that hedonic treadmill, and that's when you don't want to take any action. Right? You want to curl up into a ball and be like, this sucks. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I'm never going to get back to my baseline happiness. Well, what action are you going to take? How are you going to adapt?
Right. Yeah, no, really well said. You know, I'm such a big fan of that. I'm not none of us are perfect in action, right? But we can only try. And understanding too, this is really important, that mental habits can be in action, right? I had this, of course, I've been working, you know, we talk about it all the time. So I always try to work on mental clarity, optimism, being resilient, all the things, right? All the things that I think are self-serving to me. And so I forget what I was doing. I might have been like washing the dishes. And instead of being fully present, washing the dishes, right? Like, again, presence, you should be washing the dishes. You shouldn't be thinking about what you're doing next week and what you did and what you said and this and that and this and that. But nonetheless, I think I was really beating myself up. And for whatever reason, it was just kind of like, I didn't do something well, or I said something wrong. And I was like really stuck in that. And when I first started working on these things, I reframed in that moment, and it felt really, really bad because I had this thought like, ooh, I shouldn't be beating myself up. I should be building myself up. And then I said, Ryan, it's okay. Blah, 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 blah. You know, something. I affirmed myself. But you know what? The thing that stuck with me most, and this is now like however long ago, a couple of years. So basically the other day, the thing that stuck with me the most was how much friction there was for me to say that, right? That's an action. it's a mental action. It's a mental, cultivating a mental habit. But that for me was an action because it felt like something I didn't want to do in that moment. And I did it anyways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When you talk about friction, mental friction on affirmations, I mean, countless examples of me teaching, training, and helping develop people. One of the things that I do with them is we stand in the mirror and we both stand next to each other and we do affirmations.
Nice.
And I start, and then the next person goes, and then I'll go, and then they'll go. And I'll say to them, I don't need you to believe what I'm saying. I need you to repeat what I'm saying. And then I need you to think of something that you want me to hear. And then you say it. And if you want to say it about me, you can say it about me. But essentially, it is a very interesting exercise to see how the mental anguish on somebody's face when you say something like, I am strong and resilient. And they look in the mirror and they go, I want. And it's that friction that you talk about, because we haven't spent the time. That's the only thing that's different between me and them. They haven't spent the time telling themselves the truth. They are good enough. They can do it. We are doing it. We're currently doing it. I'm currently standing. That's why I say to people all the time, like, I can't do it. I'm like, you're currently standing in front of the mirror with me. You are currently doing it. And the other thing that's funny, just for people out there that are like, I think I might try this. The word not comes out. I'm not bad. I'm not that bad. That's what they'll say. I'm not that bad. You're like, what? No, yeah. I'm good. And it's not, I'm not bad. It's, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to blow somebody's mind, ask somebody. In fact, ask people in your life to just stand in the mirror and say the words, I am love. And they'll go, I don't want to do that.
It's fascinating. I encourage everyone to try that, right? Right after this, go to the bathroom, look yourself in the mirror, and can you actually say, I am good enough. I am strong. I love myself. Can you actually say that? And it's not meant to be like a gotcha. It's meant to be like kind of a profound experience because it is challenging. It really is. And I think a lot of people bring that up to me when we talk about just like bettering habits in general. They say, well, Ryan, this feels like I'm lying. I don't believe it. And one of the analogies I kind of like is, they say, well, I'm faking it if I do it. And I can understand where that comes from because it feels to them so incongruent with how they actually operate through the day. But that would be like saying, being someone like kind of like, imagine a little like scrawny going to the gym and they are doing dumbbell curls and they say, well, I feel like I'm faking being strong, so I'm just going to not lift the weight. Because who I am right now is I'm just this kind of weak, whatever. And I think people can understand that. Like, no, you actually, obviously, to get strong, you've got to lift the weights. You got to do the things to build the muscle. But yet when we change from the physical plane to the mental plane, all bets are off. People they don't believe it. They don't believe that they have to practice being how they wish to be, the scrawny individual or the weaker person or whatever it is. Not that it really matters. They have to practice being strong by lifting weights. And, the more pessimistic, down person really does have to practice being optimistic through reframes and affirmations and those kinds of things. It's only natural.
Oh, I love it. And such a great topic. We could go on for days, but how about the people that say to you, I'm just bad with money? Okay.
It's just the way I am.
That's just the way I am. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just this. I'm just that. I'm just this. And I mean, how many times can we beat a dead horse today to say your baseline happiness, your 40% of it is just that, but the other 60% are essentially in your control. And choosing to recognize how adaptable you have always been. And I think maybe we'll end on this kind of this point / I'll leave you with this. The hedonic treadmill proves that you have the ability to be adaptable even when you don't want to. We wish we could stay in the highs of highs. I wish I could say, like, that last job promotion I got that's the one that's going to do it for me, and I'm going to be happy forever. I'm going to but it's just not the case. In the lows of lows, the things that you've done that were not good and it happened to you and you hated it and you felt so sad, you've adapted that. So now take that baseline happiness and work on adapting to a new you, to a new level of happiness, knowing in your heart of hearts and your mind of minds that it's going to take practice, it's going to take effort, it's going to take consistency, it's going to take time, and it's going to take action. But it's deep down, you know what I'm saying is accurate and true.
Love it. Totally, all of those things, totally mutable. It just has to occur through action. Right. No amount of advice, knowledge, information, tips, tricks, not going to do it. You need that friction.
Yep. Good. Well, thank you for listening to our Simple Healthy Life podcast. And we always would love to hear from you, the audience, and we're always grateful when we do. So if you have topics or thoughts you're interested in, shoot us a note. And we're tracking these things to see how they perform. Share them with your friends and family if you're interested and want them to find a new baseline of happiness. All right.